You're all having a happy Monday. Glorious new week to those of you for whom it is. It is the 3rd of March. My goodness. 3rd of March, 2025. And what happened in crypto and the altcoin market yesterday? Well, it was a Sunday. It was the 2nd of March, 2025. And you may have noticed, if you were paying attention to the crypto charts, that something happened. Right? We had a nice big pump on Bitcoin and the alts, literally happening while I was doing a live stream telling you look to the lower time frames for changes on the VEPs and be ready for when it happens, because there's going to be changes coming up. And as always, the VEPs will indicate to you, they will tell you with the leading information what is likely to happen. Lo and behold, come back to my station where I got my trading computer and all that set up, and I see the prices on these different altcoins and Bitcoin all screaming way high. I'm looking around, okay, whatever. Look at the low time frames, see where the opportunities to get in on the trades, etc. And then I notice in the Alpha Trading Discord or on Truth or whatever, I forget where I saw it, not Truth, Twitter, same thing these days, right, practically, that President Trump had tweeted out, or whatever he calls it, that he was, issuing an executive order, that he issued an executive order to set up a national strategic reserve, or something like that, a national reserve, whatever they call it, of digital currencies, including Cardano, Solana, and XRP. And then everybody was like, "Oh, what about Bitcoin and Ethereum?" And then, like 2 seconds later, or 2 minutes later, he posted, and also Bitcoin and Ethereum. He loves those coins. So, of course, everybody attributed the raging pump happening to his tweet. They're like, "Oh, that's what caused the pump." No. And that's not what caused the pump, folks. But you can believe that if you want. Now, did his messages contribute to a bunch of people rushing in and buying? Yes. Sure. People read his message, and a lot of people decided to buy. But if you look at the actual low time frames, like on the 15-minute, you will see that there was actually a bull divergence on the returns oscillator playing out, and it was a very nice big bull divergence that had been setting up for some hours. And it was playing out a full 15 minutes before the significant movement happened to the upside. It was already moving to the upside, but it was setting up a very big bull divergence, and that played out. And I told you, and I've been telling you for days, after that drop we had about 5 days ago, 6 days, whatever it was, last Monday or something, right? And after it stopped hitting the third bands to the downside on Friday, I told you that by Monday, we could be looking at mean reversion, if not sooner. We could be looking at a mean reversion in progress to both the RMLRs on the daily candles, if not sooner than Monday. Well, sooner than Monday it turned out to be. It hasn't fully completed those mean reversions, but it's completed a bunch of them, but not the ones on the daily. Not fully yet. So the actual move happened before the tweets, okay? Which goes to my point. Show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. It was not the tweets that started the pump. It just wasn't. You can look at the timestamp on his tweet. It was a good 15 minutes or more after the pump had already started on the bull divergence. You could see very clearly on Bitcoin, and I showed it very clearly in the Alpha Trading channels. And people were like, "Oh, it's going to go to the moon now." I said, no, it's distributing, and it's very high. And after the distribution, look for mean reversion. And I was showing people charts in different time frames, and I showed people on the 15-minute, even though I was like, look, it's going to go sideways here. Going to take profits here. Even come back down to, a good number on a lot of coins, and on a lot of coins it did. All right, we saw, like example, on Bitcoin, you saw like a move, or I think Solana, for example, was it Solana or Bitcoin? One of them, I think Solana went up like 25% yesterday and is already down 5% today since the last I looked at it, about half hour ago or half an hour ago, whatever it was. So good idea to take profit yesterday and short it a little bit, and now take profit again if you haven't, or do whatever it's doing. But on the daily time frame, Solana is looking to the downside. At least it was when I saw it a half hour ago. But again, you got to look at those lower time frames because that's where those changes will happen. So once again, the VEPs beat the messenger. Okay, the VEPs revealed that once again, people will fill in the narrative to suit the storyline. Oh, it's pumping? Then it must be because of that tweet that it went up. Okay, now here's why I say this. It is not the first time that President Trump, since taking office again, has sent out a message about crypto. It's not even the first time that he sent out a message about a national digital reserve. Right? He even sent out last week a message about having a big crypto conference at the White House. None of those things were attributed to be the reason for the cause of the big movements that happened relatively, right, around those times. Why? Because big movements didn't happen within minutes of those things happening, because the VAPs weren't set up to make big movements at those times. Right? The narrative fillers didn't jump on those things and say, oh, you see, the price went sideways because he said there was going to be a conference. It's very wishy-washy. We don't know what's going on, so therefore it's going sideways. No. But they didn't say before when he said anything about a digital currency reserve. They didn't say, oh, he talked about a digital currency reserve. That means the price that's why the price pumped. No. Because the price hasn't pumped, right, significantly in that regard when he said those things. But yesterday, suddenly, when it happened to coincide with the bull divergence that was already playing out, the narrative fillers, right, the storyline editors, the so-called journalists, were really just paid, writers, paid copywriters for agenda that are predetermined by big corporations, who are usually found in the advertising sections between the pages, right? Like that's who actually runs the news. It's not the newspaper. It's not even the publisher. It's not the editor. It's not the newspaper writer. It's the advertisers. They determine what gets printed and what doesn't. If they don't like something that's being printed, they tell the newspaper, don't print that. And the newspaper won't print it because they need their money, right? Very few newspapers are willing to tell an advertiser, you can be angry as you want. We're still printing this story because it's important. Very few newspapers are willing to do that. Even newspapers like the New York Times, they will pull stories. And if you don't believe it, go work at the New York Times. See what happens if you write a story that's against the interest of an advertiser. Go ahead. Go try. Good luck. Right? If you think that the New York Times is above that kind of ethical dilemma, oh, they would never do that. They're the New York Times. They're the gray lady. The gray lady has no more ethics than let's just say they'll do whatever they have to do to keep the dollars flowing. That to them is above all else. Above all else. Period. End of story. If you don't believe that, go learn a thing about journalism and the publishing industry and see what it is that they are perfectly happy to pull from their pages if an advertiser directs them to do so. Now, of course, I'm not talking about like a $5 classified ad in the New York Times, yeah, or whatever. I'm talking about like actual big advertisers, right? People that pull out either, full page ads or many quarter page ads and half page ads on any given issue. Those people, their bread and butter, right? The companies that make up their bread and butter, they direct what happens in the newsrooms. 100%. Right? When I say 100%, I mean they set the limits. Right? They see something they don't like, it doesn't get published. Right? Even if, let's say, they publish a small story, advertiser doesn't like it, they can tell them to stop printing it between print runs. So it might appear in a morning edition, it won't appear in the late edition. And they might be beginning to do a series, right? A multi-part story. Let's say they print one part of the story, and tell them, yeah, we don't like this story. Make it go away. And if they have to continue it for some reason because of the editorial flow, they'll completely change the story. The remainder of the sessions, of the editions, completely. It won't be about the same topic at all. By the time you're at the end of it, you'll be like, wait, what did this start on? Or they'll just abruptly end it, make it disappear without any explanation. Happens all the time. Again, if you don't believe it, go learn a thing about how they run things in the publishing business in the big newspapers that still exist. And that goes, of course, the same for, obviously cable television news and corporate television news outlets on the broadcast channels and radio news, you name it. There isn't a publishing industry where big publishers do not do what their advertisers tell them. It's just not a thing. So my point in all that is they are narrative fillers. They are not determining what moves the market. They are reporting a definition, which means they are telling you lagging information about why events are happening. Right? And what is telling you the actual information of what is happening? What is actually giving you the leading information? Well, you should know, if you're watching my channel, the one thing that actually tells you what's actually happening on the markets is the VEPs. That's it, end of story. There's no doubt about it. There isn't a thing to debate here. It's the VEPs, pure and simple. If it was anything other than that, I would certainly tell you what it was. It's the VEPs that determine how markets move. That's it. So go learn the VEPs. Go to alphatraడింghq.com/Discord. Come learn the VEPs for free. Happy trading.